Not that I don't believe in it. I just think I don't want to turn over a big lump sum of money to them when they're 21. I just don't think they need.
But I always think, wow, I don't think I would have ended up the way I am if I would have got everything I wanted.
I come back, sit down in our bleacher, and the Caitlin Clark thing is sitting right there. And I'm like, wait, where did you get that?
It's good to teach them and have them pay for some of the things. If they want something special, I don't think you should just go buy it for them.
It's getting hard. It's getting hard to be a 10-year-old.
Yes.
11-year.
Keeping up with the Jones is like keeping up with the kid next door.
Instagram and all that. Everyone sees what everyone else has, and everyone wants to take a picture of their vacation and all that stuff. And
this podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Welcome to How to Money with Cole and Cole.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Cole.
We coach people every day on their money and how to plan for the future.
As financial advisors, we're here to have an honest conversation and educate you on investing, retirement, and everything in between. And we'll throw in some sports talk along the way.
Our mission and goal of this podcast is to improve your money journey and help you create the financial life you deserve.
So let's talk money.
And sports.
Welcome back to How to Money with Cole and Cole. I am Bailey Ashbrook, your host, joined by Cole Peterson.
What's up, everybody? How we doing today, Cole?
And Cole Jaski, who was on the winning team yesterday.
Yeah. In golf, it's so hot. So hot. It's crazy. But yeah, we had a little team golf outing yesterday, and team Cole with a C had the victory yesterday.
I was on that team.
Yeah, you guys got lucky. We couldn't make a putt.
Caleb, what's going on?
How's it going, everybody?
Hey, we remembered Caleb. How you doing, buddy?
Yes, you did remember me this time. I'm great. It's been a good week.
Hair's
Saturday,
looking good, man. Your hair's looking like just
yeah,
just
I
nice.
think you have a story
man.
for us. I'm staring at my idol over here.
Yeah,
this new awesome.
Yeah, first of all, it looks great in here. You got some new things hung up, and
we got some new decorations in the room for those of you that watch on YouTube. If you don't watch on YouTube, before I get into my story, if you don't watch on YouTube, go subscribe on YouTube. We need subscribers. If you watch on YouTube and don't listen on the podcast, go follow us on the podcast platforms. Follow us on Instagram. We've been posting a bunch of cool content on there. And follow these guys on all their Facebook pages. Because I always forget to do that at the beginning. So I'm not going to forget to.
And that's just the best way to get the podcast out there is just natural support. So we appreciate it.
So, all right, here's my story. So I told them I wouldn't tell them this story.
I like looking at him. He's like,
well, I told everybody when they walked in I wouldn't tell the story. Over here, if Cole Jaski can pick up this picture.
Yep.
And hold it up for the camera. We have
I don't know.
Oh, over here, over there.
Oh yeah, here we go.
So, as you can see, it's an autographed Caitlin Clark photo. So Saturday, me and my dad decided to go to. I got some really cheap tickets to that IndyCar race at Iowa Speedway.
Nice.
And Caitlin Clark was there doing an autograph session. She was the grand marshal for the race, and of course, anybody who knew she was there was super excited about it. So. The autograph session was 10:30 to 11:30. Well, me and my dad were like, well, we'll see if we can find it. It's probably going to be way too long of a line, right? And it was we couldn't find it at first. So we were like, oh, whatever, it's fine. I don't care too much about it. And at 11:20, so about 11:20, we were like looking for lunch, and nobody in the track believes in selling chicken tenders. Well, I can't eat anything but chicken tenders at places like that. So I leave the track to go to McDonald's 5 minutes down the road. I come back, sit down in our bleacher, and the Caitlin Clark thing is sitting right there. And I'm like, wait, where did you get that? And so my dad was out looking for food, and he found a taco truck. So he walks up to the taco truck, looks up. It's 11:27. The autograph session is supposed to be over like 11:30. Caitlin Clark's sitting right there, and there's like 4 people in line. So he runs over, jumps in line. The moment he jumps in line, the lady walks up, stands behind him, and goes, "That's the last person." So my dad was the last. My dad was the last person.
Oh, cool.
So he said I could take it here and put it in. So. Caitlin Clark, if you see this, you are our... Yes, that's my dad's, but he's like, I'm not going to put it anywhere in my house or anything, so...
I would.
So, yeah, well, I know you would, but...
Bailey's got a little bit of a girl crush on her.
Yeah, a little bit, so... Yeah, I didn't end up getting it, but... Yeah, I know.
That's cool.
That's a good story.
Yeah, so she was the grand marshal for the race. I'll just tell this one other quick thing about it. So she was the grand marshal for the race. The Gentlemen Start Your Engines.
I was like, I don't know what that is.
They're doing driver introductions, and everyone's like, they introduce, and it's a Papa driver. They're like, oh yay! They get to Caitlin. They announce Caitlin Clark as the grand marshal. That place went so nuts, you couldn't even hear her say, "Gentlemen, start your engines."
That is awesome.
It was crazy.
That's gotta be fun. She's on that tour right now.
She's gotta be so busy just practicing and then doing all these events.
A lot of obligations, right?
Camps.
Yeah. So Caitlin, we just have to say this: if you see this podcast, we want you to be our guest.
We want you on.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right. So that was my story for the weekend. But
I like it. Do you think you guys could beat Caitlin Clark in one-on-one?
No.
not
Okay,
a
I'm
shot.
just checking.
I'm not one of those guys that, no chance.
Just
Absolutely
like to
zero
ego
chance.
check there. Just like,
I don't even know if I'd score a point.
thank you.
I just have to hip check her real hard.
Oh,
Use my weight. We'd have to use our weight. That's
So
all
you'd
we
have
got,
to
Cole.
injure
She
her.
probably looks skinny in person,
How tall is
or
she?
on TV, but she's probably jacked.
How
She
tall is she?
gained like 11 pounds of muscle in 1 year.
How tall is she, Bailey?
I think like 6 foot.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
so she's, I mean,
she's not short.
She's lengthy. She's got long arms.
Yeah.
Anyways, beat Cole in golf. Got Caitlin Clark's signature.
Cole P beat Cole P in golf.
Well, I'm on your team.
Yeah, I
I
know.
won
That-
too. We
yeah.
took a couple of
Yeah.
my shots. Don't forget.
Yeah, we did.
It was
to
so
rub this
funny.
in.
You emailed us and put winning team.
I
Put your
know.
name
It's a big joke.
You knew you were going to lose.
It was a good day, though. We got the team out, had a little team bonding. It was, everyone was sweating pretty profusely, but it was fun. Fun day out of the office for an afternoon.
Yeah, so all the people that are not in Iowa currently, we're having a big heat wave, and it's like 96, feels like 102 for like 3 days straight, and we went golfing, which was
Crazy.
a little
We had it
insane,
planned
but
ahead
we
of
had
time.
fun.
So we had it planned ahead of time. We're like, oh boy, the hottest day of the year. We're going to go out for the afternoon.
We were celebrating our summer intern last day, Ben,
Yep.
and that's kind of how too I thought about this topic because we get this question a lot. So I'm going to dive into it. Let's dive into what we're going to talk about. Ben made this good point. He said this last time. He said this to me a couple times. Like he got into TikTok. He was like, I don't know anything about personal finances. Like I don't even know what any of these topics are, and I should know about them, right? And we were talking about this too, the lack of education. So our topic today is how to set your kids up for financial success. And we get this question a lot. How do I save my kid's future? What account should I use? What are you guys doing? So I think it's a great topic, one, to talk about what kind of strategies you can use, and two, like maybe the behavior behind really what could you teach your kid. So let's get into it. What type of savings accounts are there for kids? Cole J.
Yeah, so I think we're going to go, between Cole and I, we're going to split these up. There's three really ones that we talk about, and I think one great thing, I always say about our industry is there's no one way to do things. And we were talking when we were kind of doing the pre-production for this podcast of like Cole and I have a little bit different philosophy on a couple of these things, but what's great is there's a lot of ways to satisfy or help people with their goals. But really the three main accounts are a custodial account, a minor Roth IRA, and a 529. Those would be the most three common that I think we come across. Certain states, it might differ based on, but our core clientele, that's really the three that we're going to talk about today.
Okay, let's start with custodial account. What is it?
Yep. So I always explain a custodial account if I'm sitting down, and I think it's very relevant because we have, not to age you, Cole, you too, but a lot of our friends' age, they're now starting to where they're having kids, having families, and they're coming to me like, what are you doing for your kids? What do you do? That's the first question a lot of my friends ask because they know I do that. And I'm like, okay. I always start with a custodial account or explain what a custodial account is. And I say, well, it's really just like a brokerage account, a taxable brokerage account for a minor. So, think of it as a savings account that a parent's running that you can buy stocks, mutual funds, bonds, CDs in. And that's always a good starting point. It's a way for, if someone wants to gift your, grandparents want to give them $1,000 a year for something, you can put it in a custodial account. You can buy a growth mutual fund or, put in a money market or whatever it might be.
And this is the simplest one to transition to your kids. There's no, you don't have to take it out for education. You don't have to take it out for a first-time home buyer. There aren't a lot of rules around it. You can turn it over to them when they're majority age, which in Iowa is 21. You turn it over to them, and they can, the problem with, and I tell people this too, that the downside of this is they can do it with whatever they want.
And you don't know what your kid's going to be like at that age. I'm just being honest. If you're younger, you're saving for them. All of a sudden, what if they're, I'm not saying, but there's so many scenarios that could happen. Do you really want to hand that money over to them?
That's the number one, probably the number one pushback when I explain that, when I say, hey, when they reach age majority, this account, if they know it's here, and I always kind of do the quotations, like if they know, because a lot of times parents will save for a kid and they don't really know, which I don't think is a good thing. I think you want to educate them, tell them early on what they have, how it's doing. But the big benefit early on, especially why they are young or below the age of majority, is really unless you're pumping a lot of money in there, all the dividends, interest, capital gains, or if there's any buys or sells, it's reported under their Social Security number. And if they're not filing a tax return, there's no tax implications on it.
Correct.
So now as if you're putting a lot of money or they're making money when they're 16 and putting, it could be different on that if they are filing a return but later in life, that's generally as they're starting to get older and they're starting to understand that stuff. But that is a big benefit to it. So
yeah, but and the thing that I talk to people, like, I don't want to. I actually don't do these for my kids. I don't. Not that I don't believe in it. I just think I don't want to turn over a big lump sum of money to them when they're 21. I just don't think they need that, and that's just my theory on it. But that would be my fear, is like, here's $50,000, and if I got $50,000 when I was 21,
what would you have done, Colby? To the casino,
Vegas.
Yeah,
but I did read it.
I don't know what I would have done, but it probably wouldn't have been the right decision.
Don't quote me, but I did read a stat too. Those accounts, they're usually spent by age 25 to 35. The money's gone. So like
Correct.
wedding rings, houses, I get that, but there's also other kids who might just take that money and
That's the thing, is you can kind
take a
of,
nice trip.
as a parent, you can kind of hide it from them
I
too
agree.
a little bit, and then when they do go to buy a house, you can say, "Hey, I got this account." So you can do that.
You just have to do it the right way.
And I also think if the educate, here's where I always, and I'm going to explain this to my kids, as my kids are both younger. So I'm just starting to, my oldest boy, just starting to have some of these, he's starting to ask what things are worth.
How much does
Like,
that cost?
yeah. How much is mom's ring? How much is this? But the way I'm going to explain it to him, I think when he realizes, because I do save a little bit in a custodial account for both of my boys. Now, Cole has 4 kids, so,
But this is a great point.
The contributions get a lot more the more kids you have. So
There's so many avenues
Yeah.
to success. That's the point.
But I want to, my wife and I've talked about this, I want to phrase this as more like, hey, this is long-term money. This money, like almost like you're going to get penalized for using it. So they kind of think, oh, hey, I can't use this. But in reality, when they go and say, hey, I'm I need a down payment for a house, hopefully at that time they hadn't touched it. Now they might have. If they're smarter, they do their own research. Like, hey, I got this account. I can touch it. Dad's lying to me. But that's the idea, is like, I'd rather, hey, it'd be great if it's 50,000 or 40, 20, 10, whatever. And they, can put $10,000 down for their house.
Great start of life.
Whatever it might be. Or hopefully not. Hopefully the idea is like it turns into a brokerage account. And they keep investing for the rest.
Or
until
they
they're retired.
see the power of investing and they're thinking, okay.
Yep.
So that's great. So let's switch gears. 529s.
Yeah, so 529 is an educational savings account, but and I'm gonna go with 2 options when it comes to education savings. So most people have heard of a 529 because it's very common. In Iowa, you get an Iowa state tax write-off up to a point. I think the total is $35-40 this year or something like that. Don't quote me on it.
It's close.
It's like $3,700 and some dollars per person or something.
Yeah, it's an odd number.
We can do a fact check.
It's a very odd number.
Caleb.
So you put in that money into a 529, you get to deduct that from your state taxes, and you can do that for each one of your kids. Each parent could do it. So technically, I could do it for all 4 of my kids and for Molly. So I could take 8 tax deduction up to that amount if I wanted to max it out. The 529 plan is an education savings account. So you can only take money out for education savings. There is no limit on how much you can make to be able to contribute to that. So you can make $1 million a year. It doesn't matter. You can contribute to a 529, take the tax deduction. I think those are to be used and I use some of that, but I also think there's another option for people that are, I don't want to say lower income earners, but under the Roth IRA limits, which this year is about 220,000 married filing jointly and 110,000. Again, those numbers aren't exact. 110,000 of single. If you save in a Roth IRA under your own name,
Yeah, just for clarification, not a minor Roth.
not a minor Roth, under your own name, you can use those funds plus earnings as long as you've had it open for at least 5 years for your kids' qualified education expenses. So qualified education, tuition, room and board, books. We looked through the whole list. It's pretty extensive that you can use it for those expenses. And the reason being I like that option is that if my kids all get full ride scholarships to Notre Dame and I never have to pay for any of their college, I can just keep that Roth IRA in my own name, and it's my retirement account. So that's the way I prefer. If people make under that limit, now if you make over that limit, 529 becomes kind of your only option.
I was just gonna say I want to clarify this because we're talking about minor accounts. So Cole's saying stuff, and we were talking about this prior to the show. Everyone has different strategies. So when Cole's saying I save for college. He doesn't use that five. I mean, I'm not saying you don't, but like instead of just only using 529 accounts, you save in your own Roth IRA or tell clients to, and they can use those funds. And we were talking about this difference of not opinions, but strategies, where I think you maybe lean more to the 529 or something else.
I tend to try to get a separation there to where think of like, because a lot of times someone's coming with kids' money in mind. They're already like, hey, we've got some of this money that grandparents that gave us. And a lot of times that point, I'm trying to definitely, which I know you're not saying to direct that money to Roth.
No, that's what I do with the grandparents' money. I put it in my own Roth. I put it in my own Roth.
Suckers!
Yep. Thanks, Dad. No, but the Roth is such a unique tool that's a strategy I don't think a lot of people know that's out there. And it's a way of like, hey, let's max fill that Roth because, and that parent might have said, hey, we want to use some of our salary to go to the 529. So you're getting to that same common goal. It's just a different way to get there. And that's a great thing. And ultimately, it always circles back to the conversation of what do you want as a parent? Like, I don't know, Bailey, what's ideal for your kids?
And honestly, I put 529 because I like the separation, and it's just, that's how my mind works. And now that you can change, like always the question was, I don't want to save to a 529 because I don't know if my kids are going to college. I don't think college is going anywhere just because I know people want to. And I'm a realistic. My kids aren't as athletic as I am, so they're not getting scholarships. I'm just kidding. But
we'll listen to this in the future and see where your kids are.
But Luke's in the trade, so I get it too. But like the nice thing about 529s in my mind, I like that they can convert it to a Roth, and I still want to teach them, okay, if we convert this amount to Roth, you didn't go to school, hold on to this because you can use this for this and this, and it's just going to keep. There's so many. And different ways.
Bailey's referencing there, just there's new rules that 520 you save for a 529 a child's 529 account, and say they do not go to college, up to a certain amount of dollars can be can be converted now to a Roth IRA. That's brand new. That's a new rule within the last year. Which is a big benefit to the 529 now, to where now they continue that tax deferral into a tax-free type account. Now, if you get more than $35,000, obviously,
and then it starts in 2024. My point is, there's so many different ways to do it.
And that's it.
There's different ways to go about it.
What's your favorite quote? Different strokes for different folks.
Different ways to skin a cat.
That's I almost said that.
I don't like that.
I almost said that earlier. I'm like, that's kind of a. Everyone says that, so.
I do not. I hate cats. Sorry, Trini. Okay. So we got a 529. We got the custodial. And now we kind of talked about Roth. So you want to go into the Roth account for the child?
So a minor Roth account. Yes. So not the Roth IRA for educational purposes. You wouldn't want to do this for educational purposes because
Roth IRA, Cole Peterson's name, takes out distribution for Elia. Like that's what we were talking about.
That's what we're talking about. It's completely in my name. My kids aren't attached to it at all. I can take it out for any of my kids' education expenses after I've had it open for 5 years. So now we're talking about a Roth IRA that is a custodial account where I am the custodian and then one of my children is the minor. I'm actually naming that child. So I am naming them as the minor. And as soon as they get turned over age 18, they become the owner of the account. So that they own the account. That's their Roth IRA now. So completely different from the other and you wouldn't want to do that for educational purposes because it will count against them when it comes to filing for college education.
Is a great way to save though for kids. Now, caveat being is technically they're supposed to have some type of earned income, right? To contribute. So, you can't have your 6-month-old, you're maxing out a Roth IRA for your 6-year-old or 6-month-old.
Unless she's a model or like in a movie.
Yeah. Sitting in the Gerber model or whatever.
Income.
But say you got a 12-year-old that's, and I see it from the farm background. This is very common farm families. They, kid works field, runs equipment, whatever it might be, does chores. Dad funds $4,000 or $5,000 a year to that minor instead of just giving him a check for $5,000. Hey, kiddo, this is going in your Roth IRA. Now, great things is, some of the IRS rules now come into play for that minor, right? So the money is a little more tied up. Now, if they do want to get it after 18, there is going to be some penalty and issue there that they do have to know those implications. So it is a great way, probably no better way to set up a child up to being a millionaire than to have a minor Roth IRA.
And letting it go over time.
Continue to have that tax regrowth. Probably no better way out there.
As long as they leave it alone. That's the big thing is it's going to get turned over their name at some point, and if they cash it out, they cash it out. You won't have any control over that. But at the same time, they have to. So what Cole was talking about, like the farming father, even though he doesn't actually hand the money, he has to issue a W-2 or a 1099 to his child and their social security number that he paid them that amount. Then that's the max amount that they can put into a Roth IRA, up to the $6,500, obviously, so they can't go over $6,500. And I also want to go back to the 529 versus Roth conversation from before. That is the one downfall of saving in a Roth IRA for educational purposes, is you are maxed out at $6,500. 529, you can contribute as much as you want. You won't get a state tax deduction above that limit, but you can put kind of as much as you want.
And I just love the power of the Roth IRA. Like, so my Roth IRA, I'm like, sorry, kids.
You get giddy when you talk about Roth.
I do.
She glows.
Sorry. But I just, in my mind, I'm like, I want to, and we talked about this too, I want to set my kids up for success. I don't want to enable them though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need, that's why I like separation. Like, here's your 529. This is how much I'm putting in. Like, here's your start off to life. You're welcome. I didn't get that. Like, nothing. So this is mine. So there's just different ways to look at it. And that's why.
Hey there, listeners. This episode of How to Money with Cole and Cole is sponsored by BetterHelp. I don't know about you, but for me, finding the work-life balance of being a husband and father and working a job has been so rewarding, but it also can be so exhausting. And that's why it's important for me to take care of my health, and not just my physical health, but my mental health. And that's where therapy comes in.
BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service. And you know what's great about it? It's 100% online.
With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of challenges. To get started, you just have to answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call.
You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge.
With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you with more scheduling flexibility at a more affordable price.
Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/CFG to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/CFG.
So this brings me to my next point. How do you guys talk to your kids about money? Because we don't want to enable them. We want to educate them. And I think it is interesting because I sit on a lot of meetings with, Cole and myself.
Those snotty little brats.
And it is a first question. My young friends always ask me, like, it is top of mind. Like insurance and this, they go, what do you use to save for your kids? And I'm like thinking, my dad didn't give a crap about my college fund. He was like, you know what I mean? I do think it's a different generation. I think the younger generation kind of thinks like, okay, how can I prepare my kids? But like, how do you talk to them about money? Like, what habits teaching them? Like, what do they, I mean, your kids are a little older, Colby.
Yeah, I think you should talk about money and what things cost to your kids. Not necessarily the big items, big ticket items, but when my kids, I get a receipt from having them out for dinner, I'll show it to them. Because they got to know, like, hey, you want to go out to dinner.
Life costs money.
It costs money. And this is how you tip. And like, I'll show them that stuff. Now, not necessarily my 6-year-old daughters, but I've talked to Joseph a little bit about it, who's 13, David, who's 9. There's some things that I don't discuss with them also, how much mom's ring costs or,
it's hard to get the concept of a dot, like what that's worth until they really start earning the money too. That's always a hard thing. It's like, yeah. And they're like, oh, okay, I get this for doing this. And then I have to buy this for this. And I've got 50 cents left. This sucks.
I agree about it though. Talking about it is probably the number one strategy you can set your kids up for financial success. Cause a lot of kids go 18, 19. No one's ever talked to them about saving, giving, investing, anything. So go on.
Yeah, no, I think there's certain things you do want to talk to them about. But me and David were just in the car. David's 9, and he just is he's a really sweet kid. But he'll just say whatever's on his mind. He just goes, "Dad, how much money do you make?"
I love it.
kids. I love it. That's awesome. They're so.
And he's like, I'm like, oh, honey, I'm not going to tell you that. And he's like, no, like, what's your salary?
I make my salary, son.
And I was just kind of like, well, David, I'm not going to tell you that because if I tell you, a number, I don't know if you think that's a lot or a little or what. And I don't think that's appropriate for me to tell you.
There's probably definitely age appropriate conversations too. Like
Right.
none of our kids are like in that teen where they're like,
Yeah.
they're kind of still younger, but I agree.
Yeah. And there's, like I said, there's some things I wouldn't talk to them. I wouldn't tell them how much, a piece of jewelry costs that I bought for Molly, or we're looking at doing putting in possibly a basketball hoop, and my boys are very interested in what it would cost, and I'm just like, why does it matter to you? You're not paying for it.
Yeah.
But I do think you do. There are certain things that you do need to talk to them about money, and we're going through with something right now with our 13-year-old where he loves shoes. He wants to buy any pair of shoes that he sees, and we have to give him a limit. And then we say, hey, if you want that pair of LeBron James shoes, and we'll do $100, you would have to pay the rest, and you have to earn that money to pay the rest. And he's done that a couple times. He's got a pretty cool shoe selection, and I'm happen to be the same size as him right now, so that's pretty cool that I got to wear some of those. But
You're playing him. You're like, these are my shoes.
Pick these ones.
it's good to teach them and have to have them pay for some of the things. If they want something special, I don't think you should just go buy it for them.
I agree.
That's just my theory.
I mean, that's not how I was raised, and it's very different for every. I mean, I actually had two extremes in my household. Like, I had one where, like, you want it, you get it. And the other one was like, oh, a haircut? Like, do you really need a haircut? Well, I'm like, yeah, I'm a girl. Kind of need this thing shortened down for a little bit. You know what I mean? Very extremes, but, like, very interesting, too, that the curiosity of a young age. And, like, you said the same thing Kale's been asking.
Just last night, it's weird. Just last night, he was like, Dad, how much do you think Mom's ring costs? And I'm like, well, I bought it. So I was like, I know.
I didn't have as much money
And
back then.
we got distracted back and forth going on it, but it was just interesting because his wheels are turning on the the concept of going to the store and like you don't get a toy every time you go to the store and those things.
My life.
Yeah, I know it's a hard thing understanding. Like, I think the hardest thing as a parent is when you do have the means to provide things to be disciplined, not to give in just because it's easy.
Because you can.
Yeah, because that's where my wife and I talk about, and I feel like we're very fortunate we can buy things when we go to the store, and I'm not saying that to brag. It's purely like I have this thought in my brain. I'm like, I'm going to the store with my 7-year-old. He's gonna want something. How am I gonna handle this? Without making him a spoiled brat, and we throw a fit every time we go to the store, and make sure he values the concept of like, hey, we can't afford this, but we don't get everything just because we can buy it.
I'm going to condense my story because we talked about this before. Mek, my 6-year-old, love him to death, but like he is in that mindset. Like if he wants it now and he gets it now. And I'm just not that way. I'm just not wired that way.
It's my money and I want it now.
Yeah. And so him and Luke went to Hy-Vee the other day. Long story short, there's a $7 toy. $7. That's nothing. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's nothing, but
it is funny over the smallest stuff
thing.
Sometimes.
And he was just adamant about this toy, and Luke was like, "No, you got a toy last week. Papa just bought you a toy. Like we have grandparents that spoil him. There's just so many things." He gets home, he will not stop pestering me about this toy, and I'm like, "Day, you do not need this toy. You have so many toys. Be grateful." Did my whole mom spiel. Probably a little too much for a 6-year-old, but I'm a very motivated person. Like that's how I speak. So he would not leave me alone, and I was like, "Okay." I was like, Day, if you really want this toy, if you need it today, which you don't, but if you need it today, get rid of every single plastic toy. Every single one. I was mad. I was trying to work out. I was like, because I don't like that. I don't like that you think you're entitled to it now. And I know he's only 6, but it's a great lesson. I don't care what anyone thinks. It's a great lesson. I'm working out on the bike, my Peloton bike. I see out of my corner of my eye.
He called you on it, didn't he?
He put every single toy on our couch next to our bike. I'm laughing as I'm riding because I'm like, when I get off, I'm going to talk him out of this. I'm going to renegotiate. I get off the bike. He was so set. He was so proud of his decision. We put all the toys in my car. Every single toy. Like that's
he called you on it.
Did.
You had to go to the store and get him that toy.
I got it to him, but this is the best part. We went to my dad's that night and my uncle was there. Shout out to my dad. Like he's really good about like just teaching Day, like, you don't get it just because you want it type of thing. So we walked out there and I opened up my car. All his toys are in there. My dad's like, Day, do you know you could have sold that one dinosaur right there and bought 10 of those? Tears all over. I regret my decision. I want to change my mind.
That's funny.
And I didn't because I was like, so now I have all the toys hidden. I'm like, Day, I didn't get rid of them. I just want you to know, but you're going to earn them back because this is the problem. Like, you don't get it just because you want it now. And I even told him, I said, you could have waited 5 more days and I would have bought you that toy if you would have done some chores and like used your own money. And he like pretty young, but like my point is like, you just don't get it because you want it.
The delayed, right? We were talking about delayed gratification versus instant gratification. And we're very in that world right now with the
TikTok,
social media
Instagram.
stuff of like, hey, I can get things now. I can take a pill and lose weight. I can, all these things where or being rich, having money for retirement, those things. That's a delayed, saving your Roth IRA. That sucks. It takes discipline to do it. Cause like, yeah, I'd like to go buy a new pair of Jordans or where it is. But I tell you what, that $200 over 30 years in your Roth IRA, you're gonna be glad you did that 30 years from now. And that's an instant gratification versus a delayed gratification. And that's one thing. If you can go through some type of, situations with your kids or teaching points, and toys is a great one. Like, hey, if you wait on do that, you'll get this. Or if you want it now, here's what you get.
Here's the consequence. Because here's the thing, people who can't afford stuff, and I'm not talking about everyone, but like, oh, I really want that nice car, but you couldn't afford it right now. If you would have waited a couple more years and got a lower rate, you know what I mean? There's just so many, or if I would have saved this much more to retirement, I could have retired this much.
I'm talking to myself too. Yeah. As I'm doing this, I'm like, hey, think about this. There's some decisions you're thinking about going through right now.
And
every decision and every action you make has a consequence.
Yeah.
No matter
choice.
whether you have plenty of money or no money, and every action has a consequence.
And I'm going to go back to this too. When you have the means, like give your kids the best of the best. Like sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't get that, so I want to do that for my kids.
Yes.
But I always think, wow, I don't think I would have ended up the way I am if I would have got everything I wanted. So it's just like that comparing game, man.
Well, that's I don't know if we're going to get into the stats of the second generation. The second generation. This kind of feeds right into that. I thought very interesting.
So consistently, like if you go back to 1988 or something, fact check me, it's 79 to 80% of first generation millionaires, meaning self-made millionaires, did not inherit anything. So 80%. So 80% millionaires didn't make it because daddy left them a big pile of money. They made it because they saved and invested.
They were disciplined.
And then by the second generation, so I leave day my money, 70% of it's already gone. And by the time it hits their kids, 90% is gone.
That's crazy.
Right.
And
and that's, kind of the, like, you want to set your kids up for success, but you don't want to just hand them a bunch of money. I don't think any kid, I couldn't imagine being 21 years old and my parents tell me I have this up my account where I've got $250,000. I'd be like, oh, what?
Well, I would have partied it away. I would have been like, we're going on a boat, kids.
Yeah. And I think that's also, we see people inherit money kind of frequently, especially now with baby boomers passing away. And some people are great with it. Some people, oh, wow, this is,
changed my life.
Changed their life. I can retire early now. Some people are bad with it. Some people just, it's all gone. And they never invest in it or anything like that. So we see both sides of it, but I don't think saving, I guess what I'm trying to say is saving everything until the end and having your kids inherit a big pile of money at the end is probably
not the goal.
Not the goal either. I don't try to set that up for people. And now some people, that's what they want to do, and that's their legacy plan. That's what they want to do. But at the same time, I don't think that's what you should do, I guess.
I've poll, like this, almost like a poll question. My curiosity flags coming up here. So in your experience, do you find, say, you work with mom, they're 80 years old, they pass away, they have $1 million. Kids had no idea they had $1 million, or versus mom communicated to a lot of kids, they knew what they were going to get.
No idea.
Yeah, most of the time, it seems like the ones that know they're going to get something, or they kind of had a good idea of what mom did and dad did. They were kind of learned about money. They handle that situation very good, where a lot of times the ones that had no idea and it's unexpected, they weren't really in that situation. Seems like the money goes pretty quickly versus like, and that's probably the relationship communication of like, they probably learned about money earlier on.
Their parents talked about the importance. And me and my dad talked about this too, because he didn't talk about money for the longest time. All I knew is my dad, good saver, made good money, whatever. Never really talked about it until we got older. But now he's like, I wish we would have talked about it more. Like, I wish I would have talked with my mom more. Like, he likes that we talk about it. Obviously, it helps that I'm in the financial world. But like, it's powerful to say, hey, this isn't a gift, it's a responsibility, and here's what you're gonna get. Keep working hard. You know what I mean?
A little tougher for the older generation though too. I think they're more private.
Yes.
I think in your example, the people that die with money and their kids know about the money, usually already have money.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Because they've already talked, and
There's
mom,
traits there.
they
Behavior.
followed what their parents were doing, and they talked through that. And
there was a good example somewhere.
Good example, and they already have money. And a lot of people that inherit that money don't necessarily need it, and they're more apt to save it and probably going to pass it on to their kids who probably won't need it, and so on and so forth. But it's the people that usually didn't know there was $1 million there, and they get $250,000 because they split it with 4 of their 3 other siblings, and usually
the first time they've ever had money
gone.
in their life, or any meaningful amount of money,
and it's gone.
Yep. And I think this all comes back to, because it is a different generation. Like, a very first question, how do I save for my kids? I don't think that was probably the first question for the boomer generation. No offense. Like,
no, it was not.
It just different counts, different times. Know what you need first, and like, you know what I mean. What are you hitting your budgeting? Are you investing your amount of your salary? And then yes, if there's room and you want to set your kids up to be successful to start out, I completely understand that, because the world's only getting more expensive, houses, whatnot.
The best
but
example
also
you
teach them
That's
that
the
it's
best
earned.
example.
It's not given.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Have your financial affairs in order first, right? That's
Yes.
the best example you can set. So if you
And
can't
talk to
save
them
for
about
them,
it.
yeah, educate them. Make sure you're saving for yourself first, because then you're setting that example regardless of whether or not they're still gonna have to earn their way.
Yes.
I think as my kids get older, I will show them our budget. I know
agree.
you're big on budgets too. Like,
I
think they
gonna
should
say
know
that.
what things cost. I think that some kids are under the impression that they could live on $1,000 a month. Like, they could pay their own rent and pay for their own phone bill, and you can't.
I was just gonna say that. I was researching like top millionaires, what they do with their kids. They let them sit on the budget meetings, like age appropriate. They don't even maybe disclose how much they make, but more like, here's what the mortgage is, here's what this is how much I invest. And then also like their first big purchase, a lot of millionaires do this, they make their kids pay in with their car. So like, if you want a decent car, if you have $4,000, I'll meet you $4,000. Like, good little like examples to show them.
Pay stubs are a great way to teach kids about the real world when they first get their first pay stub, and they're like, huh, I just paid, I got $500 and $80 that went to the federal government. What's that about? Yeah, what's that about?
Wait, I have to pay house insurance and car insurance and water bill?
Yep, those are good. Those are good teaching moments.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have a friend that does kind of the matching thing you did on, and his kids are a little bit older, but he does, if they make $1,000, he says, whatever you make, the gross amount, I will match half of that if you put half of that in an investment of some
So
sort,
smart.
a Roth IRA, or I can't
good
remember
idea.
exactly what he does. But so say they make $1,000, if they take 500 of that and put it in an investment, he will put 500 in with
He
him.
matches it.
He matches it.
It's a
Just
cool
show
idea.
And
them.
that like shows them like, hey, if I put this away, he'll match it. I'm making more money and it's gonna grow.
It's a delayed gratification
Yeah.
thing too there.
Yep.
So you went a minute ago, you said something about take care of yourself first and then your kids.
Yeah.
So and my parents don't mind if I talk about this. Like, in my house, we weren't like, I didn't get started with a bunch of money, but like whenever I moved out of my parents' house, it wasn't like I was given college funds or whatever, but I was educated. Like my dad taught me as I was growing up, this is how you use money. This is how, and when I got old enough to where, like when I started working a job, he would get more into, like you were talking about, showing me a budget or whatever. If you want a phone, you can get a phone when you can pay for it, things like that. And I felt like even though I didn't start life with money that was given to me by through a college fund or whatever, I felt prepared.
You had the habits.
Yeah. And so like some people are like, oh, I want to leave money because I don't want to put them in a bad spot. Well, if you educate them, you're not leaving them in a bad spot.
sure.
Yeah, transparency. And I think the hardest thing in today's world with kids is the comparing game, because I get to see how rich people, like extravagant billionaire people are living, TikTok or whatever. These people are making just not your average person. Every girl wants Lululemon. You know what I mean? Stuff. I was like, it's getting
hard.
insane.
It's getting hard to be a 10-year-old.
Yes.
11-year.
Keeping up with
especially
the Joneses,
yes.
like keeping up with the kid next door.
Instagram and all that. Everyone sees what everyone else has, and everyone wants to take a picture of their vacation and all that stuff. And it's hard to be an adult, but yeah, in this social media era and putting things into like the importance of like, back to what really matters, being a good person,
Yes.
being educated,
Giving, saving, investing. And I think too, living in your means, like Cole's means, I'll just say this, these two, their means is not my means. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm okay with that. And like knowing there's someone that doesn't have my means, vice versa, like it's not really how much you can make, it's how much you can save and keep. How much can you keep and how much can you live off when you're done working? So like, for kids to understand that young.
Amen.
Yeah, transparency.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: we're not parents of the year. We're probably not nailing this.
All our kids are going to listen. All our kids
are
going to listen to this and be like, "Yeah, they're the worst parents."
But my son's very interested because he knows I work in this world. And he's always like, "Well, how much does that cost?" You know what I mean? It is. I think just talking about it is key, and habits, showing them. All right, dollars and cents.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Cole P, let's do it because you're up. You haven't done one in a while.
Yeah, I haven't done one in a while. And it's usually Cole J's statistician dork.
You guys are both dorks, so you know.
But anyway, the Dow Jones, and we are taping this on Thursday, July 29th? 27th, excuse me.
Good try.
So if the Dow finished up today, it would be the 14th consecutive day in a row. Now it currently is down. It's like 2:30 in the afternoon, so it probably will not do this, but just to show the run up we've had with the Dow, if it would finish up today, it would be the longest streak of consecutive days of finishing with a positive return since 1897.
Wow.
What? 14 consecutive days. So 13 consecutive days, obviously, that was a good run. 14 would be the longest. If it would go 14 and then 15, that would be the longest run ever. Ever going up.
That doesn't seem very long. Which
I know, 15 days straight. So. Well, what typically happens is you see, usually you see one up, one down, one up, one.
Yeah.
And we usually see it like this. 14 days in a row, you're just seeing constant
pretty crazy.
growth.
Statistically, obviously,
those boomers are like, yes.
It's an anomaly. Obviously, if it's since 18, whatever you just said,
1897.
What year were you born?
Don't even.
Just messing. I know the answer.
That was awesome.
I won't tell our viewers, our listeners. No, that was great. That was a great fact, though. Sorry to date you.
Shut up.
But you got older kids, and I think this is an important conversation we had today because we do. We're
all living this right now.
Yeah, and I think everyone is like, how do I save for my kids? Because I think people also see how expensive the world is, and they know I don't think it's going to slow down for my kids. Like, so how can I get them a little start, but also not enable them?
There's no exact answer, and that's where we said that there's several different ways to go about it. Get with your financial advisor. We'll talk about what your goals are with the money, how you want to try to set your kids up. You want to set up more education. You want to set up more first-time home buyer. Do you want to set up, how you want this money set aside and what you want them to be able to use it for, and then we'll talk about what the bright account is for you. That's what we do.
And take care of yourself first.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Keep working even when no one is watching. Alex Morgan, go USA.
Go Cubs.
You've been listening to How to Money with Cole & Cole, the podcast of the Central Financial Group, courtesy of Spin Market. To learn more, visit their website at www.centralfinancialgroup.com and follow them on all their social media platforms.
For now, I'm Cole.
And I'm Cole.
And we'll see you on the greens.
4.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associations Incorporated, member FINRA, SIPC. Royal Alliance Associations Incorporated is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associations Incorporated. Material discussed is meant for general informational purposes only, and it is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Diversification does not insure against loss. Any guarantees discussed refer only to fixed insurance products and are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.